David Levin, and welcome to another fragrant episode of Pop Goes the Culture, the behind-the-scenes TV stories you wouldn't have known from the people who were there. Today, on my Talk with Debbie Allen, we'll talk about A Different World, how she took over the show one season in and changed it all around, and the people she brought in for the show, including a young Jada Pinkett. Let's talk about A Different World. Set up the first year for me a little bit, and then how you were brought into it.
Well, A Different World was a spinoff of the Cosby Show. It was for Lisa Bonet, and to see her in a black college environment and what that would be. And there were these wonderful characters, and what an amazing premise, but the show was not really logical in terms of what was really going on in a historically black college. So at the end of its first year, Bill Cosby had Marcy Carsey and Tom Werner sit me down with them and talk to me about taking over the show and what would I do with the show. So I had breakfast meeting with Marcy and Tom and Karen Mondebach, and I said, I'd like to see every episode. They said, you want to see every episode? I said, yeah. I said, because I need to see what you've done. I've seen some of it, but then... So when I looked at those 22 or 23 episodes, it was not really a black college that reflected itself in its time. I mean, colleges are controversial, political. There's real stuff going on. It's not about kids walking around carrying eggs. There's just a lot of silly stuff going on.
Be specific, because I know one of the things about the Cosby Show is that they wanted it to be timeless. And they tried to sort of apply certain rules to the Cosby Show, and they couldn't be applied to a show about a college, specifically a college which was predominantly African American.
Well, the historically African American colleges, the historically black colleges in America, like Howard, Hampton, Fisk, Morehouse, I mean, these are the schools that have given us, people like Thurgood Marshall and Roberta Flack, and I mean, it is a long list of people that have come out of these. Frederick Douglass. So how do you do the first show on network television about a historically black college, and the kids are just mindless? They are just doing stupid stuff all the time. I'm not saying we don't want comedy, because I'm cheap when it comes to laughs. But I also went to Howard University. We were the first school to take over the university. Kent State came after us. They didn't send the National Guards on us. We were devastated when they killed those kids. So I understood what happens on a college campus, and so I went in there. Bill Cosby said, Miss Trash, that's what he called me, get out your broom and clean house. He basically gave me the authority to fire anybody, hire anybody. I didn't fire anybody, but I did look for new characters to bring on to the show. And Marcy Carsey, they wanted some new people, so I found Cree Summers and Charnel Brown, and I actually even found Gary Dourdan a year later. But what my mission was to make the show relevant. So we did shows that were about voter registration. I got Jesse Jackson to be a guest when he was, at the time when he was a presidential candidate. We did one about date rape. We did a show about them having a riot on campus. And I also infused it with the black fraternities and sororities. We had some real stepping and some real fun going on. I reinvented the pit where they hung out. There are no waitresses in a college campus. Got no darn waitress. Mr. Gaines, who was so earthy and so wonderful and so funny. And then we took the character Whitley, who had become the breakout character. You know, it was about Lisa Bonet, but Bill took her back to his show. And so Jasmine Guy inherited the throne, which she was fast taking anyway. And there was a lot of boxing going on backstage. I had a lot of drama with the writers, just trying to get them to talk to each other. I had been raised in multi-camera television by Gary David Goldberg, and he was the most collaborative person. He would question things, but the writers talked to the actors. It was not the writers and this is what you say. I wasn't from that sensibility, so I had to break down the walls, and I got a lot of knocks and bruises doing that because they weren't used to talking to the actors, and the actors were so alive. And when I released them, the show got so much funnier. Oh my God, it got so funny. And there was still a lot of tension between the writers, and I had to just get in the middle of it. Then we had young network executives. I remember the first network note that drove me insane. Jamie Tarses at the time, she was young, budding executive, and there was a beautiful girl who was standing in a room, and she was wearing a sweater. And, you know, she had a beautiful body, and her breasts really looked good. And they said, she needs on a sweater. I'm like, why? I mean, I'm a woman. I can admire her. She says, well, I said, what, her breasts are sitting up? They're not implants? What? So then the next thing I know, they sent Warren Littlefield, who was still not head of the network, to get me. And then Warren came in and he said, I agree with Debbie. Leave the sweater off. I mean, a sweater on a girl. I mean, come on. Or when Sinbad wanted to really try something, because when you have a live audience and you're doing a television series, a sitcom, you should try things. Let's rehearse it this way and let's shoot it that way, but then next time let's try something. Okay, you have an idea? Tell me what it is. I can get it on film. Let's try it. Sinbad was hilarious. So funny. And so we tried things and the audience would go crazy laughing. And then there were a couple of writers that just didn't like that. They didn't like that freedom. So I had a lot of battles. And I wasn't battling for myself. I was trying to make their show. It was our show. So
I hear you took them on field trips to other black colleges throughout the country. Is that true?
Well, I was always going to Howard. You know, I was always speaking somewhere, and they followed me in a lot of places. Some of them, you know, they were inspired by me. I mean, Jasmine Guy, I had brought her to Hollywood as a famed dancer. Kadeem Hardison, his mother was one of the fiercest international runway models in New York, and when he was a young boy, he used to play on my waterbed when I was starring on Broadway. And then there he is all grown up. So they looked at me as someone who started out as a dancer, who had now become a director, a choreographer, writing, producing, doing all these things. And I encouraged them to get involved. I wanted them to get involved in the writing so that the writers would start to disarm themselves and have a relationship, because that's the way it ought to go. It's better that way.
Jasmine said that you encouraged them to direct, you encouraged them to do whatever, wherever their creative souls took them. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because you made an impact on their lives.
Yeah, well, when I took over Different World, I didn't expect to direct every episode that year. I was happy to go in and have some authority to just change it around. But then Bill Cosby sent the edict, you're directing all of them. We don't want anyone. I was like, 24? Child, that's all. I said, okay. Then the next season, same thing. So I wanted to loosen for them to try things. As much as we worked together and I would collaborate with them, I was always giving them good ideas, but they always had a wonderful, just a little toy box full of ideas, and the writers started getting more comfortable coming on the stage. And I wanted them to understand that their field of expression needed to expand. As an actor, if you're really this wonderful and funny, might you write an episode? Or might you understand how to direct? You know, Kadeem, directing. It was wonderful that he actually directed. I went off and did Quantum Leap, and he was directing. You know, and Jasmine Guy was writing. And they all, you know, Jada Pinkett, when I found Jada Pinkett, oh my God, Jada Pinkett walked in that room, and there was like, when she left, it was still vibrating. She had so much energy and so much confidence. She said to me right to my face, I'm the next Debbie Allen. I was like, let's hire this little heifer now. I like that. See, I'm not put off by that. I'm not put off by a young person that is confident and ready and want to take my job. I'm not thrown off. I'm like, come on with it. Come on, let's go. And look at her now. She's doing everything. She's producing, directing, she's starring, she's a mom.
That is it for now. Be back next time for a candid conversation where Debbie Allen takes us deeper inside a different world. We'll talk about how her young actors on that show complained about Debbie's ritual of everyone doing morning calisthenics. And she'll crack up discussing the practical joke she pulled on Jasmine Guy with Denzel Washington. Trust me, it's really funny. All that, plus choreographing the Oscar telecast. What was that like? Till then, what's your favorite episode of A Different World? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Hey, don't miss Ask Them Yourself, a live version of Pop Goes the Culture where you can be part of the conversation via Skype or FaceTime.